You're listening to the Get Out of Your Own Damn Way podcast, episode number 105.
Change is going to get you, and it's not always going to be pretty at first, but it'll be worth it. I promise. You can handle the truth. Change is inevitable, so face it head on and make it work for you.
Welcome to the Get Out of Your Own Damn Way podcast. I'm your host, Krylyn Peters. Each week, I bring you inspiring messages to help you create the life you're meant to lead. Buckle up, buttercups.
Welcome back to the show. Today, I'm excited to talk about the truth about change in Death, Taxes, and Change, this podcast episode number 105. And just to remind you, I have handouts available for you to download at krylyn.com/105. That's KRYLYN.com/105. And the handout for this episode, I am going to share all of the truths I'm going to be talking about on today's episode and give you some extra little tidbits. So you don't want to miss out. Go grab your handout now. Okay. So last week, I kicked off the change series with the myths about change. And this week, as promised, I am talking all about the truths about change. I have 5 whoppers for you, and let's get started. So truth number 1 is that change is inevitable. It is. Death, taxes, and change. It is inevitable. You are always going to face change. I know some of you do not like that. You want to throw things at me, and please just calm the frick down, because here's the deal. You're not going to get through life without dealing with change. Now, there's always bigger changes than others. There's smaller changes. There's changes that you don't even realize are happening. But the change that I'm really talking about are the ones that you kind of want to happen, secretly wishing, wanting, waiting, longing for, and are kind of afraid to get started. And here's the deal. If you are on a big ass mission, which I know you are, if you are being called to a greater purpose, if you have work to do in this world that is meaningful and deep, then you have to change. It's inevitable. It's the truth. Truth number 1, in fact. You are not going to get through to the other side of where you want to be without changing. Okay, we got it done. I laid it out there for you, truth number 1. Truth number 2, change is uncomfortable. There it is, another truth bomb, something you already know. I know you know, because you're like, I don't like it. It just hurts. It's not comfortable. We have to push through. I'm going to be doing an entire episode on dealing with the discomfort of change. So that will hopefully help. So hang on, Buttercup, because that one is coming. But for now, let me just say that this is one of the truths. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be uncomfortable either way. It's uncomfortable whether you stay where you're at or whether you decide that you want to go down the path of change. And some of us go down the path of change kicking and screaming, don't we? It's not necessarily our first choice. However, sometimes the world around us has other ideas. And what more powerful place to be than you decide on when it's time for you to change. Okay, that was a little extra tidbit. I just sometimes ramble on here. You guys know that. But that is number 2. Truth number 2, change is uncomfortable. You just got to understand it. And it's just part of the process. Number 3, truth number 3. And now you guys know that I'm called the fear whisperer. So you're not going to get through a list like this without a little fear. So here's truth number 3. Fear accompanies change. Think about that one. And you know it's true. The bigger the fear, the bigger the payout, right? So there's a really great quote that I love by Fritz Perls that says, fear is excitement without breath. So think about fear and excitement as two sides of the same coin. Fear lets you know where the edges of your comfort zone lie. Fear lets you know where your passion is. And if you're not afraid when you're going through a change, then the change isn't that important to you. So fear is a necessary part of this process. And I'm like smiling because I'm so excited because I love teaching this concept. Because a lot of people want to know how to get rid of fear. How do I overcome my fear? And I'm guilty of using that language sometimes in my messages because I know that people understand what that means. But I have to even tell on myself that overcoming fear is not the goal. Moving through it is the goal. Is doing things despite your fear. Is doing things because of your fear. Sometimes when I'm kind of just going along in life and things are kind of good and I don't really have a lot of feeling about things, I'm like, where's my fear? Like sometimes it startles me when I'm like, where'd the fear go? If I don't have any fear about something, that means that I'm not invested in it. So think about fear in terms of this little signal that tells you what's important to you. And if you can shift how you think about that, that is going to help you a ton. So fear is going to let you know when you are going down the right path. Okay. Now, I'm not promoting that you're in constant terrifying, paralyzing fear all the time. Please don't hear that. However, when you're going through a change, you need some fear to help move you. Because it helps to move the energy around and it helps you to know where you're going and how important it is to you. So that's truth number 3. Truth number 4, yes, here we go. Your old coping skills are going to rear their ugly little heads. It's just a fact. So you can do a ton of work on how you respond to things, how you deal with your fear, how you deal with stress, how you deal with overwhelm and anxiety and all of those things that pop up in the change process. And yet still we have our default settings of how we respond. And those are going to come up. When we are in fear, we are sometimes on autopilot and things we react in ways that it's our default setting and that was set a long, long time ago. The good news is that with work, we are able to move out of our default settings faster. So they're always going to be there. However, we can move out of them faster, almost to the point where there's no gap between the time that we respond and then we realize what our response has been. So that's really good news. However, know that part of the process is going to be having these default reactions come up. And sometimes when you least expect them, and then sometimes when you're just like, what just came out of my mouth? Like, what was that? Right? So sometimes it's going to happen and you're just going to be taken by surprise. But I want to tell you this because a lot of us feel that it should be smooth sailing, right? We think, oh, we've made a decision. I'm going to go change. I'm going to do this wonderful thing. And we just think it's going to be smooth sailing and there's going to be no hiccups. And yeah, as soon as you start thinking that way, you know what happens is things happen. So I want you to be prepared. And I know you probably already know this, but I'm just here to remind you that this is part of the process. So there's no need to back away and do that stop-start pattern like I talked about before. This is just letting you know that this is part of the process. And this is the truth about change. And in order to get through change, we've got to know what could possibly happen. We've got to be prepared for it. So that's truth number 4. Truth number 5, and this is the best, probably the most positive one, so get ready to smile, is that change is worth it. Okay, so once you have achieved whatever you're going after, whatever goal it is. And you know, because you've already done this several times, and I know you forget about it. You always forget how wonderful it feels and that you've actually accomplished it, because you get stuck in your crap about, I can't do it. But I'm here to remind you that you have accomplished so much, and you deserve a pat on the back. What happens when you achieve what you set out to achieve, no matter how you got there, right? Because it's never a straight line from point A where you start to point B where you end up. It's always kind of a meandering, sometimes you're in like deep in the valley, but you've gotten there. You know that once you've gotten there, you did it. You achieved it. You accomplished it. You got through all the challenges, all the obstacles to get there. And so what happens is that you have a sense of pride, a sense of accomplishment. Your self-esteem, your self-worth, and your self-value go up. You're able to more easily combat the negative voices because you can say, ha, here's proof, right? So it does all these wonderful things. And when you are in the valley, when you are in the change is hard, or the change is uncomfortable, or in the fear around it, I want you to remind yourself that it's worth it. In any way you can, remind yourself of that, because that is going to help you during those dark moments on the journey towards that fabulous goal you have. Thank you for joining me today and learning about the 5 truths about change. Next week, I am going to dive into, yes, the discomfort, and we are going to talk all about how to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. So stay tuned.
Thanks for listening to the Get Out of Your Own Damn Way podcast. If you've been inspired, please share the podcast with your friends. You can find us on iTunes or at Krylyn.com. KRYLYN.com.